Love it. Schedule for later. Okay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are watching Real Talk TV. Please like, subscribe, share this video with as many people as you possibly can. Tonight, we are going to have a exclusive interview with the T. Tonight, we're going to get into more of who the T is and some controversy surrounding the T and what we can look forward to in the future from the T's channel. So, with no further ado, welcome T.
Thank you so much for having me, Real Talk. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk with you and to answer some tough questions today. I did my yoga already today. I think I'm in a really good headspace right now, and I'm looking forward to sharing with your audience what you would like to know about me.
Again, thank you for coming here. It takes a lot, number one, to um, come to someone else's platform and make yourself vulnerable. So I appreciate that.
Definitely.
I want to know, and the people want to know, what got you started. Um, First of all, what led you to create your channel, and what got you to covering said cult carbonation?
Well, it's really simple. It's not as complicated or as it's not this huge conspiracy that people think it is. It's really quite simple. I've been on YouTube for years. I've been watching YouTube before YouTube was even a big deal. Way back in the day. And so YouTube has always been a place where I just come watch videos, watch people share their lives and, see what's going on in different communities within YouTube, as well as different topics that are being discussed. And so at the time that I discovered the cult, I was watching debates. I like to watch a lot of debates on YouTube, a lot of religious and spirituality and consciousness and awakening and things of that sort. I started my own spiritual journey back in 2012. And, from there, I was just doing tons of research on YouTube, online, anywhere that I could. And at some point, it led me down a rabbit hole where I was watching Young Pharaoh debate different individuals on YouTube, religious, other religious leaders or, quote unquote leaders in their select communities. And so one day I just happened to see him, going back and forth with the cult leader. And I was like, this is different. And I was kind of outside of what I was used to seeing from him. I wasn't on that. I wasn't involved in, the beef or the, you know, quote unquote, the toxic side of YouTube at that time. And so watching that interaction, I was intrigued and I wanted to know more about this group of people that were living in the woods somewhere, and it just looked like a group of Black hippies, to be honest with you. And I was like, this is interesting. And so I dived a little bit deeper. That led me to watching some additional videos about the cult from different content creators that were sharing them and documenting them at the time, reporting on them, giving commentary, what have you. That led me over to Uncle Black's channel. And so
Mhm.
I used to watch a lot of the lives on that channel. Um, and it got to a point where one day I was just like, you know what? I love that Uncle Black is providing us this opportunity to watch the lives of a cult, an actual real life cult in action that's sharing their life, which was, you know, a little unusual just because of how controversial they were. But there was the commentary a little bit. Sometimes there was the music, the commercial breaks and all that. And I was just like, you know what? I just want to watch it straight through.
Mm.
I don't like, all the commentary. I don't like all the commercial breaks. I loved the music, but I just wanted a straight through so that I can just get to the nitty gritty and then form my own thoughts and opinions about it. And so I decided one day, I was like, I mean, I'm gonna make a channel and I'm gonna screen record some of the craziest moments that I could capture, and I'm gonna put them on the channel, and I'm going to start documenting this cult because this is kind of rare, you know. And so that's kind of how the birth of the tea came about. The birth of the tea was really just my own little project, my own little thing that I was doing for me. I wanted to just document this cult and kind of see where they are here and then see where they are 10 years from now. And so once that started, I had about 20 subscribers at one point, and I was like, I didn't care. I didn't interact with them. They would make a comment every now and then. I'd have a like or two every now and then, and that was fine. But I think I kind of got into it at a time where the cult was there was a lot going on.
Right.
There was a lot going on, and I think that people started to see,
People
my
started
videos
tuning
popping
in.
up, and they
Yeah.
started coming, and the channel grew and grew and grew, and the channel grew completely organically. I never once advertised my channel anywhere. I never once shared a link with anyone. I never told anyone what I was doing. I didn't know anyone within the sector. I didn't know who the players were. I didn't know who the reporters were. All I knew was Uncle Black and Young Pharaoh, and that was it. And then some of the people that kind of came under those umbrellas, but that was it. I didn't really know a lot, so I was kind of out on an island by myself and just doing my own thing because that's kind of like the type of person that I am. And so that's how the tea came about. It's just
Mm.
really boring kind of, you know, boring revelation. It was nothing big, but it became bigger than I ever imagined it would.
Do you think that that growth was a hindrance? Was it? How do you feel about the growth? Was it a good thing or a bad thing? Um, in hindsight.
In hindsight, it absolutely was unexpected and not something that I was prepared for. I obviously was out of my element because I'm a pretty introverted person at heart. Not the type to put myself in front of the camera. I did used to do videos back in the day where I was, you know, but it was just to such a small and select audience that, and I was comfortable with that. But I think in hindsight, it took on a life of its own. And once it took on a life of its own, it was kind of like, okay, if I do something different, how's my audience going to react at this point? If I, stop, how are they going to react at this point? And so at some point, it was like, am I doing this for me, like I initially set out to do? Or am I doing this for now all of these subscribers that I've obtained um, with little to no effort?
Mm.
And, what do I do with that? Because I didn't really want to, I kind of wanted to be the type of person that is just observing and not like becoming a part of the equation. I always kind of had that mindset where I'm like, I don't want to insert myself into what's going on. I want to observe. I don't want to, kind of become a part of it. But that ended up happening anyway. And so, yes, and in some ways, it was definitely just a hindrance, as you said. In other ways, it was still, I was, putting it out there, showing what was going on, exposing, the abuse, the neglect, uh, the horrific conditions that they were living in at some points during the documentation. And
Mhm.
so there was, it was good and it was bad. But ultimately, for myself as someone who was not technically creating content, but just really documenting this cult,
Mhm.
it was a lot of negative energy attached to it, and it was a lot of
Mhm.
negativity, especially behind the scenes, that was shocking to me to see. And I knew I was out of my element. I knew then, you don't know who all these people are that are reporting. You're kind of out here just doing this willy nilly on your own. But, documenting a cult like this, you're going to eventually be pulled into, the kind of the meat and potatoes of it at some point. And so that's what happened,
Okay.
unfortunately.
I noticed that throughout the years that you've been covering carbonation, um, you try to maintain your anonymity.
My anonymity was so important because, like I said before, I never sought to become like kind of the face of my channel. That was
Mhm.
never my intent. I never wanted to put myself out there. I just kind of wanted to kind of just document this cult that was, allowing people to do this, because, if they didn't want that to happen, they could have, made that possible. But I was taking advantage of a situation that I thought this might not present itself for another however long. If we were able to do something like this with, some of the other cult leaders of of the past, maybe they wouldn't have been able to do the things that they were able to accomplish, in bad ways, like, kind of like a Jim Jones or, David Koresh, and guys like that. But because, like I said previously, I did not want to become a part of it. I wanted
Mhm.
to observe it. I just wanted to view it. I wanted to, I'm an academic at heart, and this is just a part of, the academic mindset, is to, if you're not in the midst of the experiment, if you're not in the midst of the project, if you're not leading it, if you're not, you know i I like to observe, and then I like to write my observations down, or, process those observations, or, place the statistics, along with those observations. And so I never intended to actually report on carbonation, to be a reporter, to be a commentator, none of that. My goal was only to document, to record, to document, to keep an archive, to, kind of, who knows? I knew that, in a large sense, that just being able to have an insight view into the life of a cult was,
Mhm.
something that, we typically don't get until it's too late.
That's right.
Historically, we don't, understand the importance of it until it's like, okay, everyone has,
Right.
what has happened historically over the years with a lot of cults. A lot of them have gone out and, in infamy, mass suicides,
Right.
murders, and just horrific things that have happened. And so I was, really taking advantage of a situation, and just really thinking, as at the time, I was just on my nerd. I was just like, let me do this because this is fascinating. This is
Right.
absolutely fascinating. So that was my mindset. I never thought I needed to be seen or known. I didn't think that I really mattered in the grand scheme of things. I was just doing what I thought was something that could, kind of help people like me understand cults better, and all the dynamics that were involved. Just so many different dynamics involved there. And so that's kind of where my mind was at.
Okay. So, did you ever think that trying to figure out who you were would become part of the controversy of the tea,
Mm,
trying to, you know, guess the identity of or oust what they call docs, I guess, docs, the tea. Did you think that would ever exist?
never crossed my mind. Not for a moment. See, it's funny because I look back and I'm like, wow, I really came into this very naive. Now, had I done my research and actually kind of understood all of the dynamics that were surrounding this cult previously, then I probably would have been better suited and had a better understanding of what I could have been getting myself into just with starting the channel and documenting in the way that I did. But
Mm,
I had no idea, none. I was very, very, very clueless.
mm,
And so that part kind of happened almost kind of right away, actually. And it was, people were trying to figure out who I was from the start. It was, it was certain individuals that were curious about who I was and where I came from and why my channel was growing in the way that it was, and there was a movement in the beginning to figure out who I was. I think at one point they had raised upwards of $470 to try to dox me, and this was back in 2019 when I first started documenting the cult. And so that kind of happened fairly quickly. Yeah, that was kind of a wake up call. I was like, whoa, why, how? And I'm not really understanding why this is happening. But at that point is when I knew that I needed to protect my identity, probably more so than I ever imagined, just for the fact that people were trying to figure out who I was for no reason, you know?
mm. Interesting. Do you understand why people wanted to do it? Why? So, uh, which is how we kind of get into a little bit of the controversy. One of the theories of who the tea was that being a part of or an extension of carbonation. You were their YouTube promotion outside of their existing group.
Which I kind of didn't understand that because they have their own channel where they posted most of their lives on their channel. So I really didn't logically understand that connection or that leap or that conclusion that people were making because it can, go back to when I started the tea and most of their lives are on their own channel. So there was no need for them to have another channel or anything like that. And there were other channels out there that were posting their content in different ways. They were just, adding commentary to it or, whatever additional things they wanted to add to it. I just didn't want to see that. I just wanted to see it in action,
Mm,
and that's it. And I thought that there were other people out there like me who, didn't, I don't want to sit through everybody's commentary. There might be somebody that I might really like what they have to say and really resonate with their opinions and their assessments about the cult. But at the time I didn't think that because I was like, well, they have their own channel. And so there would be no need for them to have another channel out there. And at the time, I wasn't really getting that many views, to be honest with you. I think that didn't start maybe until I would say maybe 6 months to a year from when I started documenting, is when the views really started coming in. And like I said, I never cared about the views because when I was getting 20 and 30 views and, one comment every now and then, I was fine with that because I was doing it for me. And I was literally documenting certain instances that were happening within the cult that I thought had a really, significant moments that I thought,
yeah,
just from a psychological perspective, kind of just looking at this all this psychology that was going on within that code, all the dynamics and all the
yep,
disorders that we see on display.
yes.
So So yeah, no, I didn't take offense to that either. And I told people if they would ask me, like, no, well, no, I'm not associated with them in any way, shape, or form. And I was always receptive to people who would question me. And it was also kind of interesting because everyone associated with this cult has been proudly associated with this cult. They are, it is a must that they proclaim the kingdom of the cult. And so it wouldn't make any sense for a channel that is actually working with them to deny them. And so uh,
Hmm.
I didn't understand. I did understand it, but then again, my logical brain didn't. But I don't fault people for thinking what they think, because we all have, conspiracy theories that we think, and that's just a fact of life. So,
Okay, so Eligio, the cult leader, has said several times that you were promoting him, um, and in his lives. And I think before you began your intros and outros, um, there seemed to be some, an unclear agenda, and that could possibly be why people came up with those assumptions. Because number one, um, you were anonymous. Number two, no one, you don't produce commentary, and so it was hard to know where you stood. Um, I remember reading the comments and seeing people make those comments. Is this channel holder? Who is this channel holder?
yep.
Because go ahead.
No, and I want to say it's I I I I I take all that in stride, because I know exactly where it resonated from. I know
Right.
where that originated from, and so I can't. It was hard for me to take that seriously
Mhm.
until a certain point when I'm like, well, not only are you making false accusations after I've, spoken with you privately through Messenger and let you know who I am and what I am not associated with. And then it started just to bleeding into my channel, with people coming from other channels over to my channel, making comments, and just incessant stalking, telling me that they're looking for me, they're going to dox me, and they're going to, it just became a little bit obsessive and creepy. And so at a certain point, I just stopped caring that people thought that. I stopped caring until at at some point, there was vindication for me. It was like you could, people were drawing conclusions and trying to make links, and it was just like, you're just off base. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't make it true. And the cult leader saying that people are promoting him. He feels that everybody who posts his videos is promoting him. I'm
Correct.
not special. There's nothing special about the tea. I just had the biggest, viewership at one point in time. And, so you could say that about anybody that was reposting his videos. I'm sure he's said the same about, young Pharaoh and every single documenter and or reporter that's ever reported on his cult. He feels the same way about, and the way that he talks to his audience is a way to manipulate them into thinking, things that are not true. And that's just, it is what it is. So at a certain point, you just have to, I couldn't focus on that. I just focused on what I set out to do. And you have to have a really strong mind to be able to do that. I could have easily fallen into a trap where I'm sitting there constantly trying to prove myself while also just documenting a cult, which is basically all that I wanted to do. Not making any money off of the code or anything like that. I think that if that were simply true, um, there were a lot of different ways that could have actually been exposed, but it never happened. So everybody who talks about the cult promotes the cult, according to the cult. So
That's right.
I'm not, that I was not offended by that in any way, shape, or form. I was offended by where it came from initially. And offended by the manner in which people were going about it and pursuing the lie over and over, even after I had addressed it in multiple comments on my channel. So, was just rolling with the punches, basically.
Okay. Uh, so I want to get into a little bit of this other channel. You and the channel World News. Where did this rivalry come from?
That's a great question. Um, I don't consider anyone that reports or documents carbonation to be my rival. I don't have any rivals on YouTube, and so it was very shocking and just really interesting to me when I discovered that someone looked at me in that way. And it all started, just with the I mean, it's funny because when I look back, this is how clueless I kind of was about the community as a whole at the time. Is that when I posted the initial video on my channel with the other channel holder in the video, I had no idea who they were. I didn't know that they were a YouTuber. I didn't know they had a channel on YouTube. I called them an angry caller. To be clear, that was the name of the video. Angry caller demands to speak to Efru. And
I remember
so
that.
I was unaware of who the individual was until people in the chat in my comments section started to tell me who that was. Oh, that's so and so. Oh, that's so and so. And I'm like, oh, okay. Still don't know who that is. So I had no idea who this person was. I didn't watch any other channels. That was the purpose of me creating my channel. I am very particular about what commentary or opinions or thoughts or whatever that I allow into my consciousness. And so I didn't listen to certain people. If you weren't talking certain things at that time, I wasn't even hearing you. So documenting the cult was probably the only way that I would have ever come across that other channel holder in all of my years. I can honestly say that. And so, it just kind of like just ballooned into something that was not really what it was, because I didn't consider anyone else competition. Everyone was doing their own thing, and there were no issues. And that was the first major issue that I ever had while documenting this cult. It wasn't even with the cult. It was with another channel holder who was having his people stalk, harass, and just it was incessant. It was incessant for a time, and so that's where all that originated. The cult leader probably had no idea who I was at that time. They were so immersed in their rivalry with Young Pharaoh, and like Ashe Divine and so many other people that I was not even a consideration at that time.
Hmm.
But yeah, it just I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm really not sure where it came from. I did not listen to the other channel holder. I never saw their lives or any of that. I only saw them because they interacted with the cult leader, and that's how that kind of came about. And from there, it was just kind of downhill, really.
Do you have troll accounts?
No, not on YouTube. I
Okay.
have a troll account on Bigo that I use because, and this is the type of documentary that I wanted to do. The kind of documenting I wanted to do is that when I initially joined like Bigo to do my documentation, I would go in the room and people would acknowledge the tea, and I'm like, eek, I definitely don't want that happening. I don't want to become a part of the story, whatever they have going on. I don't want to be, I just want to do what I'm doing. I'm the cameraman, so to speak.
Mhm.
And I'm showing people what is going on in this kind of psychotic cult. And so yeah, I would go in with my backup Vigo account so that I would not draw attention to the T in that way. And that's kind of what I wanted. I needed that to happen. I didn't want to be at the forefront. I didn't want to be, um, someone that was impacting, anything that was going on there in any way. I wanted to show what was going on there and, see what happened from there.
Mhm.
So
You talked earlier about um, covering the cult to kind of get a better understanding, get some experience as a person that comes from formal education. Um, do you have a degree or extensive knowledge within the world of psychology or study
I
of psychology?
I do. And and this is probably why this was such a little project for me initially, is that honestly, to be completely completely honest with you, I have a degree in psychology. I have no idea why I got a degree in psychology. I do have an idea why I got a degree in psychology, but my mom has a degree in psychology, master's in social work, doctorate level as well in social work. And so I kind of, I was the type of kid that growing up I admired my mom on a profound level. Both of my parents really, but I really admired my mom for her intelligence, for her just for her compassion. Social workers are some of the most compassionate people you will ever meet. For her desire to help people, to understand, to kind of just want to help people fix their problems. And so
Mhm.
me going to school at the time, I really had no idea what I really wanted to do. I think at the time, if I had it to do all over again, I probably would have gotten a degree in like something like archaeology, or maybe even computer technology or something like that. But I did end up getting a degree in psychology. And then when I graduated, I didn't really want to pursue anything in psychology. And so I took a whole different track. I went the business route. And so this was kind of like something for me to just to kind of utilize all of the schooling and all of those classes and all of those documentaries we had, all of those papers that I had to write on, you know, all manner of individuals, cults, serial killers, just everything. And so this is why, once I discovered this cult and the fact that they were documenting their life publicly was so fascinating to me. I was like, like, this is crazy. I mean, if I was in class and I was able to see something like this in some of my psych classes, it would just take the discourse to a whole nother level. And so that was part of my fascination initially. And yes, I have a real degree that I've really done nothing with over the years, but it has, I'm sure, helped me in various facets of my life, as far as my career, even in the business world, and as far as my interpersonal relationships, and just as far as my social relationships with people. Hasn't always helped me in my romantic relationships, but I think you get the picture. It was a way for me to tap into that, and to kind of just you know um
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, just a way for me to tap into
So
that
yeah.
side, that
So
part.
yeah, I get it. Um, for a little while, I was the same way. Um, choosing. Sometimes we start something with good intentions, and then it kind of morphs into uh, a, 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 something that we kind of lose track of morally, do you think growing your following so fast, and I think you mentioned this a little bit, you kind of alluded to this a little bit already. Do you think growing your following so fast distracted you from your original purpose?
I think that the following growing so fast kind of it kind of deviated it a little bit.
How
I
so?
think it just in the way that, I probably wouldn't have been so, when I first started doing this, and I had, and this is probably a good thing. When I first started documenting the code, I had no idea how to do a premiere. I had no idea how to do a live video. Um, I was just screen recording and uploading. And I used my phone for everything. I didn't do anything on a laptop or a computer. Everything was just my phone. It was just, you could tell it was messy, and it was just, and I was using a old Samsung phone, and to do, it was top of the line at the time. But I was doing everything off of a cell phone. I know people, a lot of people didn't really, they were maybe thinking I was doing all these, these edits and things like that. Even the editing that I started to do later on was just all on my phone. And I was like, I could clean it up a little bit, because I'm going back sometimes to reference certain videos, and it's like, I could hear, the scratchiness or the background sounds. And I was like, oh, that sucks. So, um, I think that the fact that the growth of my channel kind of took on a life of its own, it kind of made me kind of want to present to the audience in a maybe in a cleaner fashion, I guess you could say. I wasn't really thinking that, I I don't want to make them look good. I just want to make the video look the quality good, because I know there were a lot of documentarians out there that were documenting the cult, and sometimes the video quality was kind of poor. I mean, a lot of times the video quality would be kind of poor, and the sound quality wouldn't be great, and so there were those cosmetic things that I was doing, and I think people were thinking, oh, well, are you trying to make them look good, or you're adding a little bit of music to the intro and the outro, like, why, and all of this was just because I felt that, sometimes I would hear a song and I'm like, this fits exactly what's going on in here. I'm going to add this to the intro. I'm going to add that to the outro, because that is speaking on exactly what we're saying.
Mhm.
And so the cosmetic improvements that I made to my videos was just, it was personal, and and I felt that my audience did appreciate it as well. And so a lot of the things that I did was just because I like things to be nice and neat, and in their proper space. And so as I learned more and more about, how to present the content, how to edit the content, how to, I eventually got a phone where I could record internally, so I didn't have to worry about, throwing the device somewhere and letting it record for, an hour or however long, and then, going to get it later, and then doing a quick upload. I did start to become more conscious that there were more people watching, and I did want to make sure that I was putting out neat, quality videos that were showing everything. And, I think maybe people might have taken it the wrong way, but as the channel grew, so did my knowledge of a lot of the things that I could do with the channel. I distinctly remember learning about how to do a premiere. And as sad as that sounds, because I probably should have known this, back in the day, YouTube didn't have all these
Features,
benefits.
right?
They didn't have those features, and so
Mhm.
I had no idea. Um, and so once I started doing the premieres, and being I distinctly remember someone reached out to me. Someone emailed me one day, and they said, really appreciate you putting this out, exposing this code, exposing this type of behavior. This is really important, especially for women like myself. And she suggested that I start premiering the video so that the audience could speak to each other. And so I took her up on that offer, and in my first premiere, it turned out to be really good in that people were able to interact with each other in the chat, express themselves, get immediate feedback from each other, and um, it was it was it was great. It was nice to have that. It was nice to have that sense of community. It was nice to have that sense of critique and criticism to what we were saying, and just adding, experiences and viewpoints and all of that. And so that's kind of where it was, and it just kind of took on a life of its own. And I went with it. I
Do
was
you
really
think that,
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go
I
ahead.
don't
I'm
want to
I'm
say.
done. I'm done.
Do you think that you were unconsciously or consciously, who knows? Do you think that you were beginning to have a cult-like following yourself?
No, no, not at all, because I didn't feel that there were people that were like loyal to the T. I
Interesting.
just felt that people were, and this is, I'm telling you, this, I felt that people came to the T because, like I said, the quality of the videos that I was putting out, of the documentation, people would get blocked, they would miss the lives, they would come to my channel, they would watch them, they wouldn't have to deal with any type of commentary that they might not want to hear. They could just see it straight through, add their comments. People, a lot of times I'd have people with up to 10 comments in the video, because as they're watching and going along, they're making comments, they're responding to things, they're reading the comments, responding to other comments. And so I felt that there was a community that was being built, based on that. But it was just so, like, I never felt that it was just like that, because I
Hmm.
knew that a lot of these individuals, they supported a lot of other channels that were doing the same thing I was doing.
Hmm.
And so I just don't have that type of mindset. I'm more of a background type of person.
Hmm.
I don't even really know what to do with the crowd of people, to be honest with you. And that's why you really didn't see me doing a lot of commentary. You didn't see me, coming out with doing a lot of lives, because that's not the type of person that I am naturally. I'm a background type of person. I like being in the background. I like to be behind the scenes. I'm like this in my regular life as well, where I like to make a huge impact, but I like to do it from the background, not the forefront. And so I kind of didn't see. I didn't understand that, and I still don't know that. I appreciate everyone who's ever supported my channel, everyone who ever came and dropped by, even if it was something negative that they had to say. I appreciate that, but I never felt that I had developed a cult following, or that I did feel that people appreciated the tea for um, the ability to see what they what they wanted to see, to catch lives that they might have missed, and to do so in an environment where they could form their own opinions, and could could go and run with. They can comment below, they can say whatever they wanted to say, and there was little to no moderation at one point. So I think people really loved that aspect of coming to my channel.
Hmm. What do you say to those who um, say that you block them for expressing their thoughts that didn't align with yours? For to those who said that you were biased in your content when it came to certain members or ex-members, what do you say to those people?
I understand. I completely understand. But what I can really say to them is that if they changed, if they put themselves in my shoes, and they um kind of go behind the scenes, and see the things that I see, and the things that I was seeing, then they could probably understand where I was coming from, in a much clearer way. The fact that the negativity towards certain members that were Just thinking back now, I feel like sometimes I feel just a sense of remorse and regret, um, at even allowing the unmoderated discourse that I did allow for so long. And I think that a lot of those people were impacted by that, where I got to a point where I was like, I'm not helping, I'm hurting. This is not helping, this is hurting. Not the cult leader himself, but the people that I felt that did have a chance to possibly leave that cult at some point for good and to move on with their lives. And these are young people. And I have this platform where young people are being, critiqued, criticized, bashed, put down, dogged, and dragged on a daily basis. Where's the pride in that? What do I have to feel good about the fact that my platform is allowing that when it comes to all of these young people? Not the cult leader, because the cult leader it's free reign for him. But I'm talking about the young women, especially there, that were, we know that, even though they were also involved in abusing each other, they were being abused horrifically. And so I kind of think it's kind of hard for people to not lose sight of that when they're seeing someone, put themselves through that. And I think even sometimes when you see a woman, um, returning to abuse, that's upsetting to people. And I would be reading all of these comments every day, and these comments were affecting me and impacting me as well. And so it came to a point where I was selectively moderating certain things. Certain comments were just vile, and I was not going to post them on my page. And I understood that that upset a lot of people that were blocked for making vile, disgusting comments, or moderated by their fellow YouTubers. Because I think initially people didn't understand that a lot of times YouTube was moderating you, not me. YouTube was removing. I would respond to comments sometimes, and it would immediately poof. It would just go right away as soon as I hit send. Poof. So it's not just the channel holder that's moderating or removing or blocking your comment. It's often YouTube. It's often your fellow commenters that are seeing your comment and reporting it as spam or whatever they do or however they do that. But I would very much so respond to every comment that I either deleted or if I blocked you because you were just blatantly rude to me. I never blocked anyone for being rude to a cult member. I blocked people for being rude to me, because I felt that there was no need for that. I don't have to take that. And I think sometimes people get on social media and think that they can say and do whatever they want without consequence. I'm a victim of that myself. I'm a you know I'm a you know I that happened to me as well. And so we have to take accountability for the things that we say and do. I have to take accountability for the things that I say and do, because what you say and do, it's going to come full circle.